For AIDS information, call 524-AIDS.
Fear in Beijing this morning as foreigners flee the city while the gunfire dies down. Many of the Americans coming out of China have harsh words for the U.S. Embassy there. And in Washington, Tom Foley says he bears no grudges, but a top Republican official has resigned over a letter about the new Speaker of the House. This is the CBS Morning News. Good morning, everybody. I'm Charles Osgood.
And I'm Lynn Brown. Faith Daniels will be joining us later on CBS This Morning. It is Thursday, June 8th. Leading our news this morning, the flight out of China.
Beijing Airport is jammed with Americans and other foreigners trying to escape danger. Tens of thousands of Chinese troops seem to be turning the capital into an armed garrison. Bill Whitaker is in Beijing with the latest on the story. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Charlie. Amid reports of further troop movements last night, Beijing has taken on an eerie calm. Residents are waiting anxiously to see what will happen next, and foreigners are taking advantage of this period to make their escape from China. A convoy of American embassy vehicles, the ambassador's limousine at the lead, brought non-essential staffers and family members to the Beijing airport this morning for the first U.S. charter flight out. At the airport, they joined the crush of foreigners desperate to escape this violent and chaotic city. A number of other foreign embassies have also laid on special flights to help get their nationals out. U.S. Ambassador James Lilly, who came to see the group off, defended the embassy's handling of this crisis against criticism it's not doing enough.
I wish those complainants would come to me. I get all sorts of indications of unhappy people who had this experience or that. When I try to track it down, it always seems to disappear. But I know it exists. Some person in the States got back and said, we didn't brief him, we didn't help him, down with the U.S. Embassy. But let me make a small point. Some of these Americans may not like us, but I think the United States is about the most popular country in this country right here of any country I've seen.
As foreigners flee, it appears Chinese hardliners are gaining the upper hand here. Government-run TV has begun a campaign of fabrication and distortion, showing only pictures of what it calls counter-revolutionary ruffians, attacking military tanks and burning to death government troops. The reports make no mention of the far greater number of civilian casualties. Now, while Beijing appears calm today, troops continue to mass on the outskirts of the city, and Western intelligence sources caution the turmoil in China is far from over. Charlie?
Well, is there any difficulty for Americans or other foreigners getting to the airport, the ones who are trying to get out of there?
Well, troops have massed along the airport road, and our folks report that there are hundreds more troops there today than there have been in past days. But so far, we have gotten no confirmed reports that the troops are in any way interfering with the foreigners trying to get to the airport.
You mentioned that there's an eerie calm there and that the gunfire has died down. Does this mean that the military crackdown is working and the rebellion has been silenced?
Well, in a way, it has. The streets have returned to at least an appearance of normalcy. But if you talk to people, if you get them away from the main crowds, they will tell you that their hearts are with the pro-democracy movement and with the students. But at this point, it just doesn't seem that it's safe to say that anymore with the troops all around the city.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Whitaker reporting from Beijing. Lynn?
The special flights out of Beijing were ordered after angry complaints from traveling Americans. Bill Plant at the State Department has the story.
As the first charter flights began evacuating Americans from Beijing in large numbers today, U.S. citizens who were able to get out of China earlier say they wish the government had acted sooner.
But they waited too long. I mean, it's a mess over here.
Questions about China and about other issues at his first primetime news conference tonight. The nationally televised session will take place in the East Room of the White House and will be broadcast live by CBS News at 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
In Tehran today, a government official offered Iran's help in releasing U.S. hostages in Lebanon. Parliament Speaker Hashemi Rafsanjani tied his offer to American assistance in finding Iranian citizens believed held by the Lebanese Christian militia. It was the first Iranian comment on the hostages since Ayatollah Khomeini's death last Saturday, and it came in response to a plea from President Bush. And British newspapers report this morning that Iranian leaders are talking about dropping the Ayatollah's death threat against author Salman Rushdie. In exchange, the head of London's Muslim Institute wants Rushdie to withdraw his novel, The Satanic Verses, and to donate the proceeds to a fund for victims of religious riots in India and Pakistan.
On Capitol Hill, House party leaders are trying to put on their back-to-business faces after months of acrimonious ethics debate. But as Deborah Potter reports, to the embarrassment of many top Republicans, old habits die hard.
An apparent effort to smear the new House Speaker, Tom Foley, backfired in a big way, with members of both parties decrying an attack memo put out by the Republican National Committee.
This is not politics. This is garbage.
Mark Gooden, who wrote the memo linking Foley to an openly homosexual member of Congress, resigned yesterday, admitting to extraordinarily bad judgment. But that did little to appease angry Democrats.
Well, I think the people at the top have the responsibility to clean house. In other words, the people at the top, and there's a case where I would go all the way to George Bush.
Yeah, I think the president ought to make sure, one way or the other, that this doesn't happen again.
The president was said to be disgusted by the attack, and embarrassed Republicans wasted no time disavowing it.
I will be spending more time personally viewing what goes out than I have, obviously, I had in the past. Had I seen this, I feel very confident that it wouldn't have gone out.
And it was stupid, it was juvenile. Nobody in our leadership, nobody in any responsible position in the Republican Party agreed with it.
Foley himself said he's not bearing any grudges.
The issue was closed.
But that may depend on the Republicans, and many Democrats believe that as long as Lee Atwater is the head of the party, the tactics he honed during last year's presidential campaign will continue to be used against them. Deborah Potter, CBS News on Capitol Hill.
In Texas, flash flooding turned a canoe trip into a nightmare for two teenage boys. They were pulled to safety in a dramatic rescue after their canoe collapsed in the rushing, rain-swollen waters of Timber Creek, northwest of Dallas. Fellow canoers who managed to get down the river safely called rescuers when the two didn't show up. The boys were a bit bruised and shaken up, but not seriously hurt.
Look who's back. It's Mark McHugh, and you were in sunshine, we were in rain.